if I looked back 10 years from now and my son's in front of me or my daughter's in front of me and they're like, Dad, what did that person become? Like, what did they end up to be? And I had a bad, like, regretful feeling that was like, that guy could have been something great. That guy could have been amazing, but he quit. He let parties, he let girls, he let momentary things that really didn't matter get in the way. Like, kind of stuff would have haunted me for the rest of my life. And as a dad now, as a father, it would haunt me because what type of example am I setting, for my children, where
Mhm.
I can't tell them to do something that I never did. So it was just driven by, man, I cannot regret this. I can't look back and say, what if?
Welcome to Q's Health and Wellness Podcast, your source for living a healthier lifestyle and developing a better mind, body, and soul. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful fitness gurus, athletes, and individuals who are passionate about enhancing all aspects of life, we provide you with the tools to help you take your lifestyle to another level. And now your host, Quinn Mitchell.
Welcome to Q's Health and Wellness Podcast. This is your host, Quinn Mitchell, and today I have a very special guest. Ben Teer is a pro skills basketball trainer. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. So would you mind giving a brief introduction about yourself?
Yes, sir. So, for me, I grew up in Maine since I was about 13. Was a non-recruited player by the end of my senior year in high school. Was really, really crazy because I led the entire state in top 5 in scoring, was one of the top 15
Wow.
players. But a lot of coaches just kind of said, you're too small. And for me, I just became obsessive about the game of basketball.
Mhm.
Took that into college, made it to Division One, got a Division II scholarship, and then unfortunately was injured.
Mhm.
Trickled back down to my home state, where then I started training,
Mhm.
and from there I've been blessed to work with hundreds of players in the state of Maine. Just had 3 out of the top 6 players in the state that were from Miss Maine and Mr. Maine, which is like
Oh,
the most
wow.
prestigious
That's a big
award.
thing.
Yeah, for Mr. and Miss Basketball. And right now it's one of the largest brands in Maine. So just hungry, man, excited, love the
Mhm.
game, love the kids, and just trying to instill that passion and that just love for the game into them, and to just help them understand that no matter what's happening for you or against you, you can always work, you can always push yourself and get better. So hopefully that's a quick bio and like introduction.
Yes, sir. So when did you first start playing?
When I was 3 years old,
Wow.
I'm originally from Kentucky. So
Okay.
yeah, so basketball is like the thing out there and we're right by Indiana. So,
Mhm.
you know, if you don't play basketball, you're crazy. So yeah, I remember getting like a little Tykes hoop. It was like 3 feet off the ground, and
Mhm.
it was weird, man. I remember my parents would tell me I would just be outside all day on it. I wouldn't want to come in. So just something I fell in love with early.
Yeah, it's crazy because with a fellow hooper, talking hooper to hooper, it's like we all remember that first time we all fell in love with the game. So it's very passionate that you know about that. So when you started playing and becoming like a student athlete, what were some of the biggest obstacles for you, and how did you overcome those obstacles?
That's a great question. I think for me, it was my size and it was my lack of athleticism. I'm 5'8", never grabbed rim, never dunked. And so for me, especially when I was in prep school, I've played against, Andrew Wiggins, Jared Sullinger, Evan Turner's, like Phil Pressey's, Trey Burks, those type of dudes. And so when you got those guys that like, and especially for me, I wanted to play at a high level. I
Mm-hmm.
was very passionate about getting a scholarship. And so for me, it was becoming obsessed with the details of the game and being the most skilled player on the floor. I think a lot of times players, they get so caught up in the highlight plays, the dunks, the cool, like when I was younger, it was and one type stuff. But what
Mm-hmm.
really is going to help you stay at the highest point of your game to get the most out of your game is being the most skilled, I think, on top of your natural talent, but
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of players, they just rely on their natural gifts and they don't really feed their skill set. And so that's what I had to do. And I had no choice, and it was tough. You had to be, mentally tough. There was times where, someone that was 6'5" could just goof off in the gym and start. And for me, just to be able to get remotely the same playing time, I had to put up 1,000 makes a day. So
Mm-hmm.
it was tough in that aspect because it was like, why is it so tough for me? but you constantly realize, and I know you're probably understanding it now, where when basketball does end, those things carry over in life.
Hmm.
Because as much as I love basketball and kids and hoopers love it everywhere, it does stop at one point, and all of that stuff helps you in life after basketball for those life lessons. So I think that would be the toughest stuff I went through and kind of where it helped me after.
So I'm glad you brought up that point though, because a lot of people, even with myself in my story, when I went to CMCC, I really wasn't getting that much playing time. But it wasn't until like my first year when I transferred out of there, I went to UMA, and really like actually started breaking down film. And that's another question I wanted to ask you too: is how much film do you actually study? Because I literally remember the first 6-7 games of UMA. I swear to you, I sat the bench. I maybe played like 10, 12 minutes. But it wasn't until the game, I swear, our senior point guard got hurt, and it was constantly watching hours of film. So then when I stepped into the role, I think it was the second game after, I lit him for 35. So it was just the film. I don't think people really understand how much people that want to be great actually watch film and pay attention to the detail. So to you, that question to you, how much film did you actually study when you were playing, and how important is it?
Man, before the film stuff, what you just said there is really important, because we live in a microwave mindset these days where people want it like that. We're so used to getting every answer that we want on that thing. And especially young kids, they think it happens like that. And what you said is crazy. Stay ready. Stay ready at all times, because just because you put in the work, just because you think you deserve it, doesn't mean you're going to get it. But there will be a time where something will pop up, something will happen, and if you stayed ready, you'll be able to take advantage of the opportunity. But to your film question, dude, rest in peace, because I loved him, but I remember watching Kobe Bryant when I was in high school. Man, I was so crazy. I would mute the entire TV. I would slow it down to 1/4 speed, and I would just watch him the entire game. I would say,
Mm,
okay, what is he doing with his footwork? Well, why did he put it forward, not to the side? Oh, he was reading the top foot. Okay, on defense, why is he leaning over a little bit? Oh, because he sees the back door. Like, it was just once, and I'd rewind it, I'd fast forward it, and 3-hour basketball games, I'd be up for 8 hours just
mm-hmm.
like obsessing and watching over it, or finishing it the next day. I think why film is so important is it teaches your brain to slow the game down, because you start to see the same things over and over and over. And so your body doesn't understand the difference between watching it on a screen and watching it in real life, right? So eventually your brain starts to slow all these things down. And in a game, it helps you be able to kind of like read what's going on, see what's happening before it happens. And because you've seen it so much, you kind of instinctively just know how to react, because your body follows your brain. So I
Mm-hmm.
think film is important from a like learning IQ standpoint, but just to also stay ahead of the game and be able to read stuff better, especially when the game at a higher level gets faster and the gaps get smaller. Man, it's one of the most important things, I think.
Yes, sir. And I want to ask you too, when it comes to training, because I know it was that junior year was a big year for me. Me and my teammate, we used to wake up in the morning, shoot 5 a.m. and nobody else was in the gym, and we just shoot thousands of jump shots a day. But to you, it's like, I want to ask you that question. How do you really, when you were playing, how were you with your clients, or how are you now? Because a lot of people don't understand how important it is to get those jumpers up. A lot of people
Mhm.
do everything for social media. They do five just jump shots in the game or in practice, excuse me, and they think that's work. Well, what is your definition of putting in work in the gym?
Oh man, I would question you're a true hooper if you don't practice like that,
Mm-hmm.
because there's just, if you love something, you can't get away from it. You know what I mean? You're always trying to be the greatest and the best at it, or you're trying to get the most out of it. I could tell you, for me, one of my favorite players in high school is Gilbert Arenas, and for some of the young kids, they probably don't even know who that is,
Yeah.
Hibachi. But I remember reading an article on SI, Sports Illustrated, where he said he put up 100,000 makes in the summer. And I said, all right, bet if he's an NBA player and he's doing that, I'm gonna do 2,000 makes. So I did 200,000 makes in the summer. I
Mm-hmm.
got there, like you said, 5 a.m. I put up, 500 makes. Then I went to the weight room, and then I did some conditioning. Went to get my lunch, came back, did about 1,000 more makes. Then I did an hour of ball handling, right? Then I kind of rested, maybe watched film, maybe just kind of rested and relaxed, got my dinner, came back, did 500 more mates, then watched film. I mean, it was like you were a college hooper, I'm a college hooper. When you get to that point, it's almost a full-time job, right? You're doing weights, you're doing conditioning, you're doing practice, like that's 6-7 hours right there. So it's nothing short of, what would you be doing at a job? Then that's what you should be doing to, get your game better in practice. So that's just kind of how I looked at it. I should be spending 6 to 8 hours there with my job,
Yes, sir. Yeah. So another question I want to ask you now as a skills trainer, what do you? Because I mean, when it comes to college, a lot of players they change. I've seen it with my own eyes. Like they come in high school, they're a scorer. Then the coach says, "All you do is sit there and shoot." I mean, that's him. I mean, that's what they try to tell me to do. But it wasn't until I had to break that mold when I'm just not a shooter. Like I can do everything. But what do you do? Because as a skills trainer, I feel like people come to you and they say, I used to be like this, but now college got me like this. So they're stuck in this mindset and where their coach only puts them in a box, so they can only do this. So they change them as a player. So what do you suggest to players that's dealing with that?
Yeah, no, that's an amazing question. I deal with that once every couple of weeks. I just spoke to a girl earlier today about when she gets back into playing and stuff and everything gets going again, how she can change her mindset. I think so many players, they get caught up in being a yes player, which what I mean by that is whatever coach asks of them, they do. There's a good side of that and there's a bad side of that. The good side is, players, they think, okay, when I go in, coach wants me to pass the ball, stay in the corner, and just shoot threes.
Yeah.
What if you love to break people down? What if your main part of your game is slashing? That's taking something away from you that you are best at. So it's understanding. First thing is when you get into the new role, the new team, wherever you're at, you establish who you are right away. So many players, when they jump onto a new team or they get to a new place, they automatically just say, okay, I'm going to just fall back. I'm going to kind of ease, right? Yeah, I'm going to ease my way in. I don't want to make anyone mad and blah, blah, or I'm uncomfortable right now. I don't got that confidence yet. And so then they start realizing it. They're kind of putting themselves in that role where other people start to be hoopers. They start to attack. They start to play, hard, attack, whatever. And then they just kick at you in the corner. So coach starts to see that. And then season time rolls around and coach has that type of player that you are in their head. So it's establishing who you are first. And then second is don't be a yes player. Be you around the offense. Don't let the offense dictate who you are around it. And it's a major difference. A lot of players go in and they just try to be perfect for the offense and they forget who they are within the offense. And then over time, they still slowly start to lose playing time because they're not who they really are. And then they halfway through the season are upset, they're frustrated. And, then it's a battle with themselves, which is one of the hardest things to get out of. So
I'm glad you brought that up though, because that's something.
That's why I know it.
Yep, that's something I was about to say. I've dealt with myself. It's like it came to a point where it's like you know what you can do, but it's like because at the end of the day, when you're playing on the team, it's like you want to do everything that makes the coach happy.
Exactly.
But then it's like, are you really looking out for your best interest as well? So it's like a constant fight between who you are and what your coach wants you to be. So to me as a hooper, I feel like that's one of the biggest mental struggles that we can go through, because you could really lose yourself if you're not really true to who you are.
It's facts. That's one of the most important things. And I'm so glad that you said you've been there, because I was when I went to the Division II school that I got a scholarship to, Alaska Fairbanks. That's what happened to me. The coach wanted a point guard that came down, set up the play, moved the ball, screen, sat in the corner, came back, just tried to get people going. And then halfway through the game, it's like, yo, I haven't taken a shot. And it's just, you go from in high school taking 20, 25 shots to now you're taking none. And it is a constant balance. And it's half of it, some players, in the back of their mind, when they hear this right now, they're going to be like, oh, they're just saying, don't listen to the coach. And no, it's not that. It's listen to the coach, be what they want you to be, but don't just be a yes player, because then you're going to lose yourself. It's like you said, finding that tug of war, always staying between the balance of that. And when you're young, it is hard. But when you get older through that experience, you start to realize how to, in certain plays, delegate, and then how to take control. But man, it's so hard when you're young to know the balance of that. And it's something that sometimes only experience can teach you, or in today's game, just being hungry. And like you said before, watching film, man. And those are things that you want to watch for in film. Sometimes when I watched film when I was younger, I just looked at the scoring part or the defense part. I didn't look at how's body language, what is, like Kobe, what is his mindset when he's coming out? What did he just do after that timeout? They're down 5. What is he doing right now? Is he looking to set up a play, or because he's the man, is he looking to get a shot off? So those things are really important when watching film as well.
So another question I wanted to ask you, I'm glad you brought it up, is the mindset piece. I want to dive into that with you. I know a lot of hoopers, they claim they want to be killers, but they really it's not in their DNA to be it, so it's hard for them to bring that out of it. But for me personally, I feel like it wasn't until, like I said, my junior year was my big year for me. So it was once I was able to see what I could do, I was just in constant kill mode every time. Like whoever played in front of me, it was no giggles in games. I feel like nowadays people are too friendly with the competition, which I know you could probably speak on being in Maine, seeing how people play. But it's like, what develops the killer mindset to you?
So I have a take, but it's a little left. I think how you speak to yourself defines the actions that you take in life. And then over time, those actions that you repeatedly take ultimately become who you are and the results that you get. And so I think a lot of people, and I used to hear parents, older teachers and trainers and coaches all the time say, you're either a killer or you're not. And I don't agree with that. I used to just believe them. And then I realized that wasn't me. I wasn't a killer when I was younger because I didn't have confidence, right? I was always kind of an alpha personality. So maybe that can't be taught. But I think that confident, that killer mindset can be. I just think it's ultimately how you speak to yourself. And so just look at how you just spoke about yourself right there. Yo, whoever's in front of me, no hold bars. I'm going at them. They're getting the business. Like, if you constantly tell yourself that over and over and over and over and over and over, you start to believe it, But you and I both can be honest with ourselves and say those times where we weren't getting the play time, we were really confused with what coach wanted us to be. We sometimes question ourselves like, yo, like, am I losing it? Is coaches not seeing my value, or am I really just like not as good as I think I am here? Or you'd start to have bad games because you were over trying and stuff. And then it's like, dang, what's wrong with me? So the different way of speaking, I think, is so key to yourself. And it's one of the hardest things in the world. But I ultimately believe what you say to yourself, over time, you're going to become. And so that can be something where you can be negative. Man, am I meant for this place? Am I really like, do I have it anymore? Maybe I was just, a high school great player. And then you start to believe it. Or, nah, I'm a killer. I'm going to go at people. I'm going to keep working hard. Things are going to keep working out for me. And I think it's just becoming more certain in yourself versus uncertain. More, an uncertain person, they're unsure, they're confused. A certain person they're confident, they're a killer, right? They're straightforward thinking. So I really believe in that. And I know it's a very different way of thinking, but I really do believe that it's the truth, man.
So speaking on building confidence, do you think that comes from the work that people put in, or do you think it comes from the mindset? What is your take on that?
My fault. No, you're exactly right. The mindset is just the beginning piece. You got to put in the work. Yeah, I mean, and sometimes I forget that because I feel like it's given, but it's like, yo, you can't just sit there and be like, watching Netflix for 7 hours, like, yo, I'm great, and then go out there without putting any work and expect to get results, man. Basketball is such a beautiful game where it's one of the only sports that you can always work on your game, especially at a time like now. You just need a ball. All you need, bro, is this right here. This is all. You can dribble this in your basement. You can dribble this, when you're laying in bed on the couch, so it's like no other sport you can do that. You can't throw a football to yourself, you can't golf if you don't have anywhere to golf. It's just, so basketball is such an important and beautiful game because you can always work at it. So I'm with you. Mindset, proper work, and then honestly, the third thing I think would be a good circle. You need good people around you because you ultimately become who your 5 closest friends are in life. So that can be great for you or a detriment to you.
Got you. Now, let's jump into the skills work. What do you I want to get your intake on the proper work that players should go through, because I've had a lot of coaches, and I've honestly seen a lot of bullshit that coaches tell me to do this drill, do that drill, and it's honestly, Like I never forget at CM. The coach had really had me playing center. It was doing big man drills, and it was only because
Right.
I was only because I was strong at the time. Like I was one of the stronger players, but not once did I ever and it was in the game in that position. So I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, it's always good to know everything, but a lot
Right.
of times it could be a waste of time as well. So what do you think, or what are some of the drills that you put your players through that is efficient work for them?
Yeah. First off, it depends on like what part of the season. If we're in the off season, I think we focus more on their weaknesses. If we're in season, we focus more on what their role is, what their strengths are, and just continuously to make sure that they're perfect at that. But for players, I have a 3-step process where when they come to me, we develop a SWOT analysis where we break down their strengths, their weaknesses, the opportunities that they can have for next year, and then the threats that are going to keep them off the floor. From there, we start to personalize that around who they are, what their goals are, how far they want to go,
Mm-hmm.
and their work ethic, how honest they're going to be with themselves, and kind of if they're really going to put in the work for all that. And then from there, we just continuously we make checklists and we keep track of accountability of, I have different drills that time them. They have to complete different, shooting drills where they got to get to certain makes and certain amount of reps or certain time frames. So that is a really generalized blueprint. If you want anything more specific, definitely let me know. But I think that's how I kind of start with off-season players. In-season
Mm-hmm.
players just attack what their role is and what they're doing and how to perfect that.
Got you. And I want to jump back on the mindset real quick because I forgot to ask you this question.
Mhm.
I find it very fascinating now that I've been out to college for a year. I really think sit back. It was one of the things that I really thought about was how we're able to take whatever is going on in our life, and when we step on that floor, it's just our sanctuary. It's just nothing else matters. So how were you specifically able to do that when you were playing?
I mean, just loving the game. I didn't have the greatest childhood growing up, and so basketball, I think, was always an escape for me at that age. And
Mm-hmm.
so you kind of just basketball, in a way, it's just like life where there's ups, there's downs. There's good times, there's hard times, there's bad times. Um, and I think that's what kind of drove me to it, where it was so real. It was so much like life, but in a way, basketball had no wrong because, it was all on you, where you determined how much you'd put the ball in the hoop. You determined how many times you lost the ball. And so I think what just made me fall in love with the game was the purity of it, if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
and how much realistic it was to life. Where there were times where you felt like giving up. There were times where you felt like they could do no wrong to you. So I think it was a balance between those two, of purity and that realistic part of it. But yeah, man, then it was just it kind of it's hard, it's like asking me, what were my thoughts when I saw my wife for the first time. It's just like you don't have the words, but you just are like, it's that just something for you. And so
Mm-hmm.
um and then once you got once you got a hold of it, it was like, oh, I'm never letting go of this. So
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not the greatest way to answer it, but I think you know what I'm saying
Yes,
without me.
sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing I want to ask you as well. Speaking on the mindset part, I know, like how, like I know when I was playing, especially as for certain schools, there was a lot of times where I'll be on the floor and a player would make one mistake and they would stay in the game. But if I would make that same mistake, I would
Mm,
get pulled like immediately. So that immediately would start messing with my head, and it's like, man, like like is it really worth me being here? Is it really worth me keep training the way I'm training? Am I really just, or am I just wasting time? So what is something that you would advise players that's going through that, that what they can do and how they can approach that situation?
Half of it is maybe not putting so much of the emotional part into it, kind of just because once you start adding, and it's hard, it's easier said than done, but when you start adding that emotional side to it, you start to come up with all these like negative things like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, he or she is just out to get me, or yo, he's a hater, she's a hater, they don't really understand my value. There's an old story that I heard, and I always tell players when they ask me about this. There's a guy that he got a new job, right? And when he got this new job, the boss placed him in this small little cubicle, right? The other 3 people that just got the same exact job, they were placed in these big cubicles with air conditioning, and they had this nice scenery where they could see everything. They could see the whole city. And this guy, he was put in this small cubicle that looked like it was a janitor's closet before. The desk was just as big as the entire cubicle. And at first he was like, I'm not going to let this affect me, right? But then over time, what happened was he started to see the boss giving the other people high fives here and again. He started seeing the boss like always saying good morning and kind of like never saying stuff to this guy. And so 3 to 6 months into it, he started to think negative thoughts. Oh, he doesn't like me. He doesn't see my worth, right? He put me in this cubicle because he doesn't think I'm as good as all of them. Well, I'm going to show him. I'm going to show that boss. And 7 to 8 months into it, he started to overthink. He started to overwork. He started to, do a little too much. And 12 months into it, the boss came in and let him go. And so finally, the guy said, listen, I just want, since you already let me go, let me just ask you, like you put me in this cubicle, like you had me, he said, you had me losing from the start of it. You put me in this small cubicle. You gave these other guys these magnificent rooms and buildings and all this. And I was stuck in here. Like you had it out for me at the beginning. And the boss, and here's where I'm getting to my point. The boss said, I put you into the cubicle because we had this double suite room being worked on. So I was going to give you the largest room because I saw so much promise in you. I was going to make you head manager in just 2 months into it. And he was like, well, then what about, why did you never say hello to me? And he said, I wasn't saying hello to you because I was so in tune with what you were doing. I wanted you to be left alone. I wanted you to be able to work, and I was going to go in and I was going to try to get as much done as you were. I loved your passion when you came in and got your job offering. And so my whole point of the story is, first off, sometimes we always don't see what is actually going on, where maybe the coach is trying to push you. Maybe the coach is seeing something that maybe we just don't see. There's a flow in the offense. They want things to happen that we're not making happen, and sometimes we take it so personally through emotion that we actually end up self-sabotaging ourselves than helping ourselves. So that long story just kind of is telling players, don't be emotional. The second very quick part of it is, you're right. Maybe they're just not as smart as coaches as you want them to be, and you just got to keep working. You got to keep working. You got to keep putting in your shots and your reps, and you just got to continue to over time earn your way inch by inch. So those are 2 sides of it that I hope players can understand.
Yes, sir. But I want to ask you as well. The honest question is, do you really think coaches play favorites? Because to me, I mean, I personally, I do think it is a part of it. But at the end of the day, my thing was always, if whoever was the quote unquote favorite, if I could kill him every time I see him, he has no choice but to give me that opportunity. But I want to hear your side. What do you think?
Yeah. I think for sure coaches have favorites. I think, again, don't get wrapped up emotionally into it, because that could self-sabotage you. But at the end of the day, it's understanding that sometimes personalities just click. Maybe there's people that just click with each other. And, I think just with every great coach, I've had an open dialogue and conversation and communication with them. So even if they thought I was being too quiet in practice, I always, had that conversation with them where it's like, nah, coach, I'm just really focused, and that's how I do my thing. And so I think maybe if you don't think your coach sees eye to eye with you, try to build a relationship with them,
Gotcha.
go. And I think you can agree where those last 2 years for you, where you were saying you were killing, I bet the relationship with your coach was a little bit better, where you spoke to them, and maybe they did reach out to you more because you were the top player. But I think that if you're younger, don't be afraid to go in and build that relationship with your coach and talk to them and communicate, because, at the end of the day, unless they're just an awful coach that they'll be out of there sooner or later, if they want to win, like, they're not just going to be taking you off the floor if you're the nicest. So at the end of the day, be so nice that the coach can't take you off, no matter
Got
how
you.
you feel.
So, is there any advice that you would give to a player that wants to play at a high level that their personal coach would not tell them?
Yeah, it's not easy. Only 1% of people play at the Division I level. 1.5% play at the D2 level, and 3% play at the D3 level, and AI level. So it's like, if you're gonna be in that 3 to 1%, you got to outwork 97% of the entire world or the entire United States, wherever you're from. So you got to want it, man. You can't just if you're gonna have these high dreams, high aspirations, that's fine, but your work ethic has to match that.
Mm. See that I'm glad you brought that up. That's another thing I was going to say because I was just knowing you because when I was in Maine, everybody was talking about Ben Teer training, Ben Teer training. And I actually never got the opportunity to work with you because I was just bouncing around school to school. But I always knew your work ethic was there, and so even with me and myself, I always knew that I had to put in the work to get to where I wanted to be because I've seen it with my own eyes. You can see the best player, but you know who's in the gym if you're in the gym. But let's put it like that: if you're always in the gym, you see who goes out and who goes in. So a lot of times players don't understand the amount of work that they should put in because they only do what their coach tells them to do. They don't do anything after that.
I think that's just getting around great people, you know. And in today's generation, you don't have to have good people around you. You have social media, you have the internet. You know, you can see the type of work LeBron puts in, the type of work that Giannis puts in, that Kobe was putting in. You know, that Michael Jordan put in. I mean, their stories are all over social media, where it's pretty simple. Like, you say what people say, you do what they do, you get what they get, and so, and that's good or bad, you know. And so it was what I did was I had mentors that I never met, and then I had mentors that I had met, and I learned from them. I got game from them, and you know, you understand that, yo, these dudes, these girls, these guys, like, they're at the level they're at because they're putting in this type of work. And you know, and you find someone that plays like you too. Like, at the end of the day, I love Michael Jordan, I love LeBron, but like, I'm not 6'6" or 6'9", so I gotta look at a JJ Barea, a Jason Kidd, a Steve Nash, like those smaller, unathletic point guards that, like, how did they get to these levels? How did they get Division I? Like, what type of work did they do? What did they try to, like, you know, work on? Like, that's what I would say too. Not just getting mentors, but the mentors that are playing and just like you.
Got you. And just a couple more questions for you before I let you go.
This, bro. I'm loving it.
So, but I wanted to ask you as well. When you were playing in college, were even before? Let's jump back before you even got D1. I know there had to be some point in time where your social life had to take a hit because I know. I mean, I don't know about you, but I know mine did. It was whether it was relationships or girls that wanted me to just chill with them all the time. I had to come to a point where I had to stop and I had to put my dreams, aspirations first. So everybody else came after that. So I did, like, there was no parties. Never was really out. No drinking or smoking. It was always just the gym. So talking Hooper to Hooper, I want you just to talk about that experience with you because, I mean, everybody has their own story, but mine was I was just never at any function until I put my work in first, and then after, if I had time, then I went. But that's how it was for me. How was it for you?
Same. Those priorities that, you know, and again, looking at with the side of that, there's good mentors, like you were saying. There's always those players that could be great, and they don't become the type of potential that they have. And you start to see why. You see the path that they went down, the people that they were hanging with, and so what I understood was, you know, the parties, the girls, you know, all the other stuff, like, that's always going to be there. That's not going anywhere. And, you know, I only have 4 years in high school. I only have 4 years in college. Like, some of the greatest players, unless you're Vince Carter and you're just like inhuman, like, you're probably only playing to your 35. So it's like and that's only a third of our lives. Like, in basketball years, like, that's so long, but in human, like, in world years, like, that's the third of your life. So for me, it was like understanding that with the higher the goals, I had to sacrifice more, and that I couldn't regret anything. I think that's the biggest thing. I was so driven by, I cannot regret anything in life. If I look back and I messed up or I failed or I didn't make it, but I gave everything that I could, that's fine. But if I looked back 10 years from now and my son's in front of me or my daughter's in front of me and they're like, Dad, what did that person become? Like, what did they end up to be? And I had a bad, like, regretful feeling that was like, that guy could have been something great. That guy could have been amazing, but he quit. He let parties, he let girls, he let momentary things that really didn't matter get in the way. like kind of stuff would have haunted me for the rest of my life. And as a dad now, as a father, it would haunt me because what type of example am I setting, for my children, where
Mm.
I can't tell them to do something that I never did. So it was just driven by, man, I cannot regret this. I can't look back and say, what if?
See, that's it's crazy because one of my mentors that I like he played with me. I played against him, Khalil Dukes. He always told me. He said
Oh,
all it
geez.
takes
Yeah. Oh, God.
all it takes is one chance. Because he said all it takes is one chance for you to mess up and you could lose everything. So he was telling me, he said I don't party, I don't drink. So as soon as he told me that, I think I was a sophomore high school. I immediately adopted that same mentality. But then I always seen him working out. And then I started working out. So it was following people that wanted the blueprint. They gave me the blueprint. All I had to do was just follow it at that point. So it was just having that mindset and knowing that, okay, if I could do this, I can get at least, if I can't get to where he's at, I can get at least somewhere to be successful in that ballpark. So, I mean, I don't think a lot of kids really understand that. They always want the gratification of doing everything in the moment, but instead of looking long term.
We're in such a microwave society, man. These kids today, like when I got into college, I think that's when Instagram started really getting big. And so it was like, man, I never grew up with that instant gratification of just, you can hop on social media, you could post a picture or a video and you can get 50 likes. And it's like, you really might not be that nice, but social media make you feel like you're amazing.
You not lying. You don't know how many times. Well, I mean, just looking at competition, saying, "Okay, we're gonna play against this dude going his Instagram." He think he's nasty.
Yeah.
See him in person, it's like he's not even that nice.
Yeah. But that's we're in such a generation and an era, I think, where it's more of the I gotta show you, I gotta sell me, I gotta, I'm like, I gotta present myself, right? And that's why I love like Damian Lillard, man. He doesn't ever post videos online about him working out. He doesn't ever post anything, and he just tells you, when I get in front of you, you're gonna see what I've been working on. I'm just gonna let my game speak for itself, because what did he say? He said something that was so dope, bro. He said energy always comes out in two ways: talking or actions. The more you talk, the less action you take. The more action you take, like we all, like real G's move in silence, that old Lil Wayne bar.
Now, another question I wanted to ask you as well. So I know what made you so successful in Maine as just a pro skills trainer? I know a lot of people probably they tried it or they haven't got to your level. So what made your program so elite over theirs?
When I started, it was about 6 years ago. I got in a really cool, important time, because there was just starting to be trainers in the world. And they were starting to get more of an elite platform, a more just out there type platform. And so there was, I think, only one or two trainers in Maine, but they weren't really that big. And what I noticed, see, whenever I look at something, I always look at, what are the problems that need to be answered, right? So what do kids need? What are there no solutions for? And what I saw everybody doing the same drills, man. I saw everyone doing, right? Like how many trainers now have you seen? Yo, now that it's Corona, we're gonna do crossovers, we're gonna do head wraps, we're gonna do between, like it's the same stuff that Pistol Pete was doing, and so it's like everyone was doing the same stuff, and there was no marketing, there was nothing online. No one had really tapped into that online atmosphere yet. And so 6 years ago in Maine, what I tried to do was I tried to just present my value and present my drills and my brand online. And I only marketed online. And what I did was I created a social media page, I created a website, and then I posted every single day some type of content, some type of value, where it was how to do a specific crossover, the move of the day, Tip Tuesday, and this is before everyone started doing it now. And not like, no cap, not trying to say it like this, but I kind of was the person that put this on for Maine, where people then, after I started doing it, people started to use social media. People started to, put the kids that they were working with out there. They started to post content and value. And then a lot of these programs that weren't doing very well, when they started to take this like social media side of it, now they've blown up and they've gotten big. And so I was that person that just, and it wasn't like the smart or genius of me. Like people
Mhm.
were doing it in other states. I was just the first one to do it in Maine.
Mm.
And just because no one had seen it done like that before, that word clout started to come about then. I
Mhm.
just came right at that perfect time, and I
Gotcha.
rode that wave where I shot up to like 35. Well, my first account on Instagram had 90,000 followers, but
Wow.
it was deleted for like music copyright. I put music behind a video and
Mhm.
Instagram deleted it. And then because it was copywritten, they had like a certain term back then, they deleted my whole account. So
That's
I had
crazy.
90,000, like lost all that and then got it back up to like 35,000 now.
Mhm.
And I've been there like ever since. But because I was at that perfect time where it just exploded, man. And what
Gotcha.
happened was I just went from a local trainer training young kids to, and I was good at my craft. I
Mhm.
was good at my craft. I helped kids. I helped this team that had never won a state championship before. My first year working with like 12 of the 15 players, they won it. And then like just anything else, then a domino effect happened. Other great
Mhm.
players came from other programs and then they won and they got better. And then it just, from there, it just grew where, now I've learned over time that there's more things that you can do than just private training. I've grown
Mhm.
my brand. I've become more of a brand than a trainer, than a skills trainer. And so it's just learning everything from the outside business perspective, having that just perfect niche and timing of getting into it, starting something that's never done before. And I can't even lie to you, man, just having great kids, great
Yeah.
players that like I really believe you attract who you are. I attract kids that are grinders, man, and they're hungry and they win. They're in love with this game. They're hoopers, and I don't really mesh well with people that come in and they just want to get this stuff for free without, not like money, but like without
No,
working
I
hard.
understand. Yeah.
They just wanted to appear and show up, and I kicked them out of my gym. I'm like, you don't want this, because it's just, not only are you going to not get there, but it's also going to affect me.
Mhm.
Where it's I have to be real with you, where this is going to affect my business, because like I know you're not going to make it with that attitude, um,
Mhm.
and it's just going to taint my name that I'm blah blah blah. So all in all, man, I think it's a mix of right timing, hunger, right kids, and just understanding business as well.
Gotcha. And a quick story. I don't know if you're going to remember this, but I remember last year when I played at Prescott. It was, I think it was like later after the season was over. We was playing this open gym on the right side of the court, and you
Uh-huh.
happen to just have a client in there by yourself on
Yep.
the left side. Or now, I forget what the court is called, because it was different from the main gym. But we happened to walk out, and somebody say, "Oh, that's Ben Teer in there." Now look, but and the crazy part is because when you're training, this is one thing I could really say about your training. I just happen to see a glimpse of it.
Yep.
You pay so much attention to the detail,
Yeah.
and the person that you're training. The crazy part is not a lot of people know this, but it's one thing to train somebody, but when you could train somebody and they actually listen to what you're saying, and then they do the joint and effectively do those moves, it's a whole different situation than just having somebody come in there and they don't listen specifically or do exactly what you're saying. So
Yeah.
that's something that I could really say that was really impressive, because even the client that you were training, she was really attentive to what you were doing, and I feel like your attention to detail is just beyond crazy. Like I feel like because of the stuff you were telling her just about the angles and everything, is
Yeah.
something that you don't really hear nowadays, because a lot of coaches don't even understand that stuff.
Well, thank you, man. That's incredible to hear, because that's the passion behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Where I love this game and I love those kids. I get really, really, like I was telling you just a few minutes ago, I get great kids. They're in there and they want to get better, and they know that both of our time is valuable. Like I want to be in there with someone that really wants to be there, and they want to learn from someone that just isn't going to just teach them stuff that they saw in a video that they've experienced, that they've done themselves.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other side of that is I I don't ever I always want a kid to be impacted, because I've realized over time that you ultimately can't change a kid's game. I really believe that. I believe you can impact it, you can give them the blueprint, but at the end of the day, like they gotta want it. And so I think when a kid just like real recognize real, you can't lie to someone. They feel the energy. You've ever walked into a place and You haven't even said one word to someone, but you can just feel
Feel
something.
that something's off. Yeah.
Right, yeah, but then there's those other people where you just get this
You,
great vibe about
you,
them.
yep.
You know what I'm saying? So energy is deeper than words and even actions. And I think people just feel it, man, that I really care about those kids. I'm really passionate about their success, and I want them to succeed. And so yeah, I remember the games because I'm looking at you guys. I'm always, the thing, I think it's the competitive nature in me where half the time, whenever we have a break or something, I'm looking over and I'm like, dang, I wish I could be playing. And then the other half of me is like, yo, I got to be on my A game because what if they're listening and what
Mhm.
if they want to get a session in with me, So it's like,
Yeah.
it's just a competitive side of me in both ways. So yeah, I definitely remember the games.
Yes, sir. So as a business owner, I
You're
know.
left.
Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah. So as a business owner, how do you basically balance out everything with your personal life as well? So like, what is a typical day like for you?
Yeah. So right now it's a little different, but most of the time, with school going till 2 p.m., I'm a family man first. We actually just a week and a half ago, my wife gave birth to our second boy.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
thank you. I appreciate that. So
No problem.
I'm a father of two boys now. So, my wife and my two boys are the most important thing to me outside of
Mhm.
my faith and my faith in Jesus Christ. So
Yes,
I'm a
sir.
Christian, and that's number one, family number two. But I make sure until, 2 p.m. or until I have to leave. Sometimes I'm not perfect, but I try to be 100% invested in them. And I try to make sure that I help out around the house. And, I just have great moments with them. And goes back to that regret thing. I don't want to look back with regret. And time goes so quick, man. It just feels like yesterday. You can probably say the same thing. We're freshmen in college, and now it's like, shoot, I've been out of college
Yeah.
3 years now. Like, what's going on? Time is just a thief. It goes so quick. So that's my first half of the day, and then second half, usually I'm in the gym where I'm
Mhm.
8-9 hours locked in. On the weekends, my wife is a soldier. She handles the home, and usually on the weekends I'm gone anywhere between 14 to 16 sessions a day, man.
Wow.
And I just grind. I just really invest. I got a good group of people
Mhm.
where I work with anywhere between 150 to 175 clients privately or in
Wow.
small groups now every week. And then
Mhm.
on top of that, I have academies where I have anywhere from 20 to 30 people. I do different academies 4 times a week, and then
Mhm.
I run anywhere between 15 to 20 different camps throughout the year. So,
Jeez.
so yeah, man. So it's family is first. My faith is first.
Mhm.
Um, but then after that, I'm a grinder, and it's basketball all the way.
Yes, sir. Now, for people that's listening to this podcast, and just in case they want to get in contact with you or train with you, would you mind giving them the contact information?
Of course, yeah. Probably the easiest way to reach me is my social medias. It's at Coach Ben Teer, Teer. That's for Instagram, for TikTok, right? I'm trying to get for the young kids, man. I'm trying to get good on TikTok.
Mhm.
And then my Facebook is at Tier Basketball Training. Again, Teer. Or email me at tierbasketballtraining@gmail.com. So those are the best ways. In Maine, we don't get service. It's fixed. And I got AT&T, so if I'm
Mhm.
not home, I rarely get service. So email or social media is best because I'm on Wi-Fi almost anywhere.
Yes, sir.
The
Before I
people,
let you go, yeah. Before I let you go, I always ask my guests this one question. What is something that you're most grateful for?
right now is life. I
Mm,
mean, just look at everything that's happened in 2020. Just getting up every single day where you don't know if this is your last day.
mm,
And I think that's what everyone needs to lead with because especially in times like this, these last months have been crazy, man, where
yeah.
we've lost people that we didn't even think we were going to lose. We got
Mm,
pandemics going on and epidemics and viruses. And, it just really shows you how fragile and how short life can be and how anything can happen. So every day I've been trying to wake up and just, be grateful for three different things. And I think
mm,
gratitude is the ultimate way to have a supercharged battery in life for motivation, for passion. I think it really fuels off of gratitude. So I'm just grateful, man, to be alive and grateful to be here. Honestly, I know it sounds cliche, but it's the truth.
No, I definitely agree. And before I honestly forgot this question because one of my friends I wanted me to ask you this because they're going through this right now. So if you don't
Okay.
mind, I got one more.
Yeah, for sure.
When injury hits, I know. I mean, for me, my senior year, my groin,
Mhm.
it was a tough time mentally. So what do you suggest for people that's going through that when they're trying to bounce back from injury? how can they get back to who they were, or get that killer mindset back? Because to me, I know personally, it affected my confidence. I
Oh,
wasn't the same player. I did the senior year. I went from averaging 15 my junior year to averaging 5 points my senior year. So it really hit me hard. So it was just something I had to deal with and accept. But for people that still have time left in their college career, what is something that you could suggest to them that could help them get back to that point?
That's such a good question. And you've talked about mindset a lot tonight. Why that's such an important question is because I think, and you'll agree with me, as hoopers, and this is where it's the good side and the bad side of being so invested into something. We sometimes have our identity in basketball. And so
Mm-hmm.
when that's taken away, we start to question, like, who am I? Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
so when injuries hit, man, we feel very lost because it's like the one thing we've been doing all our lives now
we
we
can't
just
do it no more.
can't do. Yeah, and it's one of the hardest things that I've ever had to go through, which sounds really crazy because there's so many more difficult things in life that people go through. But what helped me was understanding that this happens for a reason. As cliche as that sounds, maybe you can learn just as something simple as appreciating what you have more, and
Mm-hmm.
so you don't start wasting time with it. You don't, you're invested and engaged in those moments in the locker room, or you don't let little things get in your way, the drama. You could become a better leader. You can sit on the sidelines and you can learn and watch and be able to just impact the game from a different way where you can become a better leader. So I think number one, the way to attack the injury is to have just as much passion, but in a different way for the game, right? Whereas being a leader, being a good teammate, and it's hard. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy, right? Because there's nothing that replaces playing basketball,
Mm-hmm.
but it is understanding that, and it's finding value and helping the team in a different way. And then the second part of it is, just stay, stay believing, stay faithful, stay confident, and however that is, whether it's getting around good people, having a good mentor to talk to constantly keep you up, having someone that's keeping you accountable on your rehab and taking that serious. And it's just, again, just continuing to stay mentally tough and attack it. And then the third thing is, I think, which a lot of people miss out on, don't be afraid to switch your game up. I used to be a very, like, you ever see a Keel Carr?
Yeah, yep.
I used to play just like him. I'd be in the air like,
Mm-hmm.
like 6 different pumps in the air and finish. And then I tore my meniscus. I tore all 4 ligaments in my ankle.
Wow.
And anytime I jumped in the air, I got scared. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what if I land on someone? And so I started developing like the Kyrie game, scoops, and
Mm-hmm.
different off time stuff. And just because I was very hesitant whenever I jumped in the air, so I just started to change my game up around, not around my injury, but just to add an element where I didn't have to only be that player that kind of I was fearful of, or because I think that's a bigger thing too, that when you come back from injury, you're really nervous.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to get injured again. So I would say those 3 things are important. I would love to hear what your thoughts are too. I know.
But yeah, I never forget my coach had told me after I tore my calf, and he had said, I feel like you reached your cap. I said, reach my cap? He was like, yeah, like you reached your potential. So I said, how does somebody reach their cap? He's like, I don't feel like that you could get any better than what you are now. So once he said that, I never forget. We played
Mhm.
UMA. I went to UMA. We played CM my junior year. I never forget it. The whole time, my whole mindset, I never talked to anybody. Didn't talk to anybody. During the pregame, the coaches came up to me. I didn't really talk to them either. It wasn't until the tip-off started, and it was just the zone I clicked into. And it was just, I ended up at 29. But just this long story short, it's like, if I wasn't mentally tough, the coach could have killed me right then and there. It was like, you're
Yep.
capped off where you're at. And it was only at that point I had to realize some coaches only look at it for themselves. They're not really in it for you. So I really had to believe in myself over everybody else.
And
So that was
see,
my
I
biggest
just
thing.
touched on that quick part of being mentally tough. I love how you just dove into it right there, where you said you found motivation, because I didn't say that. And I completely agree. That's another thing. You got to find motivation.
And so I really appreciate you coming on the show, giving us good advice. And for all the hoopers out there, I know you, like I said, you're one of the biggest things in Maine. I don't take that lightly because I mean, just being in Maine, just playing basketball. And there's always good things I heard about you. But before I finally sit here to talk to you, and get this one-on-one basketball advice, I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking
This
to
has
me.
been one of the most fun podcasts I've ever done. I love how you dove into actually being a hooper and trainer. I was telling you that beforehand, but like this is what I'm passionate about, man. And so thank you, because I'm just as grateful to be on here, man. And anything that I can do for you, please let me know,
Nah,
because
for sure. Like maybe in the summer, once this all clears up, hopefully, we can come up here in Connecticut. We could do like a camp or something
let's get
for the
it.
kids and host it. You just let me know.
Anything, I'm down, man.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Q's Health and Wellness Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe or to leave us a review on iTunes or the listening platform of your choice. Also, please check us out at QuinnMitchellII.com, as well as find us on Instagram for more useful content and resources.